If I hire somebody to work in my house and they're injured, will my homeowner's policy cover their injuries? That's actually a fairly complex question and is going to depend on a lot of variables. The first question is, what type of coverages do you have under your homeowner's policy? If you have what is called a medical payments no-fault provision, then it'll pay the injured worker's medical bills up to $1,000 or $2,000, regardless of how the accident happened or whose fault it is. That provision is designed to cover minor injuries without any legal dispute. For more serious injuries, that's going to involve your liability provision. And what that says is that your homeowner's policy will pay the injured worker's damages if you are legally obligated or legally liable for the injured worker's injuries. So how do you determine that? That's going to depend on your relationship to the worker. Is he your employee working under your supervision? Or is he an independent contractor that you've hired to do a job? If he's an independent contractor, you are generally not going to be liable for his injuries. Let's use an example of wanting a tree cut down on your property. If you call somebody and say, I will pay you $500 to cut down that tree, and then they show up with their crew, their equipment, and they decide how they're going to cut down that tree, and you have no other involvement other than paying them the $500, then they're going to be independent contractors. And if someone on that crew is injured while cutting down the tree, you are probably not going to be legally liable for their injuries. And therefore, your homeowner's policy is not going to be legally obligated to cover their damages. If, on the other hand, you call up somebody and say, I'll give you $500 to cut down this tree, I'm going to give you the chainsaw, I'm going to give you the ladder, I'm going to give you the axe, I'm going to give you the equipment to do the job, I'm going to show you how to do the job, and I'm going to supervise your work, then you've become their employer, and they are your employee. And in that circumstance, you are legally obligated to make sure they have the proper tools to do the job, they have the proper training to do the job, and the proper supervision to do the job safely. And if they are injured because of your lack of supervision or lack of training or improper tools, you are going to be legally liable for that person's injuries, and therefore your homeowner's insurance will be legally obligated to cover their damages because you're legally liable for them. So whether or not your homeowner's insurance will cover somebody's injuries is really going to depend upon your legal responsibility. If you are legally responsible for their injuries, your homeowners will generally pay. If you're not legally responsible, then your homeowners will not pay. And where that sometimes causes a hardship is where the homeowner feels morally obligated to the injured worker to pay for their medical bills or lost wages, but they're not legally obligated. Under those circumstances, no matter how badly the homeowner wants his insurance to cover the worker, they're not going to do it because he's not legally obligated. So when you hire people to work at your property, you need to think, are they independent contractors or are they employees? If they're employees, your insurance will cover them. If they're independent contractors, you need to ask them, do they have the insurance necessary to cover themselves and their employees for your own protection?